is Phyllis Reid Jarvis from Ultimate Potentials, and welcome to our first offering of our podcast at Ultimate Potentials. The reason for creating this podcast is certainly to serve you, our listeners, and more importantly, to highlight stories from men and women such as yourselves who are leading incredible lives, just amazing lives with wonderful stories and experiences that maybe once you hear some of these stories, there might be a nugget or two in a particular story that might spur you on to take action, especially if you might be delaying taking action, delaying making that choice, delaying making those changes that inside needed to be made. Or hearing these stories from these men and women that I've been speaking with, really around the globe, just all over this beautiful earth of ours, might be a reminder to you that you're actually on the right path. And that sometimes, we're on a path, and of course we come upon obstacles and challenges. However, we know deep down inside it is where we ought to be. And yet sometimes those obstacles and barriers can have us entertain a little bit of doubt. And so some of these stories might just prove to be that piece of reminder that you're on the right path. And so I'm really excited to share with you a story from a very young guest of ours who hails from Guyana, South America. His name is Chetram Balkumar, and Chetram is all of 24 years old and currently holds the position of manager in vendor and procurement at GGT, a technology company based in South America. Now, Chetram didn't just start in this position. He actually had what we call his quantum moment. And his quantum moment is what really spurred him on to change paths, to take action, and to do so in a very different way. And I'm sure you're very curious to find out what was Chetram's quantum moment and how did it spur him on to make some very, very strategic choices and to continue making those choices today. And just a beautiful story of a very young, upcoming, very, very forward-looking young man who, against many odds, actually managed to rise to where he is today. I think you're going to really love this story. So please join me in sharing Chetram's story. And here's Chetram on managing relationships.
Hi Phyllis, how are you?
I am really great. Such a pleasure to have you come chat with me here, Chetram. So how are you doing?
I'm actually good. Not too long came off of work.
Okay.
It's nice. Just getting accustomed to a new position that I've gotten through.
Oh, yes. And I can't wait to hear more about that. I mean, that's quite the, accomplishment. And I think something that might be of value to folks who might listen to this podcast is kind of just, get a little bit of who's Chetram, right? So we'll talk about work, definitely, but outside of work, like what do you do to, unwind, relax, or if you get that chance to do anything like that?
Well, I do. You must have that balance between your work and personal life. Just that work-life balance. For hobbies, what I do, I'm a fan of the game pools. I pretty much almost every weekend that's my go-to online
love it
recreation. Well, I'm 24 years old, employed at GT&T Guyana as the manager of procurement, and I'm pretty much qualified as an ACC affiliate.
So tell me about that. What is that? What is ACC affiliate? What is that?
So ACCA is a UK-based accountancy qualification. It's a professional qualification that is recognized here in Guyana. And it's internationally recognized across different regimes.
Nice.
And it's a professional qualification. It gives you the insight as an accountant. You can deliver in the work environment. Also gives you practical experience that you're required to have. So it's well-rounded.
Wow.
And it helps me, on my quest to become a professional.
So we have some goals here that you're aspiring to becoming, did you say a professional accountant?
Yes.
Excellent. So the ACCA, is it?
Yes.
Is sort of like that first step, from what I'm hearing, to
Yes.
becoming...
Well, so it's a professional qualification. From there, you can move on to getting an MBA or get a second degree, something of that sort that you're going to keep progressing on with.
So I hear some ultimate kind of aspirations in the making there. I love it. So at 24, though, how? Like, 24 is so young. Who were you back in high school, and how old were you when you were in high school? 10?
No, actually, I've tried the path with age. I was pretty much a loafer in high school, to be honest. I was literally the last guy academically. I was literally the last guy in the class.
So let's qualify that for our clients, because we have our listeners, I should say. So we have listeners all over the world, and I totally understand what you mean. So when you say the last guy in the class, you come from a culture where they actually place students, right? So tell me a little bit about that process.
So it works like this. Based on your scores for different subjects, you get a percentage, and they grade you overall on a percentage. And I was pretty much the person that got the least.
And I'm laughing because that's part of my history as well.
I mean, you, as a young person coming up, you go through those phases, until you get serious.
And we're going to talk about that point when you actually decided, because it has to be something that comes from inside of you. Because let me sort of go out on a limb here. When you were in high school and pulling in those grades that ranked you last, and trust me, I've been down that road. What were your parents or, I don't know, older siblings, any older siblings who were like, hey, Chetram, you got to pull up your socks? Was any of that happening?
Well, actually, yes, it was. It's just that I've never gotten, I wasn't really concentrating. I'll be honest here. They were behind me, pushing me to studies and sending me to extra lessons, but it just wasn't working. I wasn't just taking it serious. So that's the result I got from it.
So I'm curious though, because when I said to you that I too have been down that road, I too have been on that road. So literally, failing my final exams, but having like my parents behind me pushing, and inside of me I wanted to get serious, but for some reason I couldn't. So I don't know what was happening with you at that time that you knew that you weren't serious, you knew you weren't concentrating, but somehow couldn't get serious and started concentrating. What was going on at that time?
So for me, it was just a matter of being comfortable where you are, what family you had, and then what really transitioned or what triggered that change in my behavior and approach towards my studies is that I had a tragic experience in my younger days in high school that resulted in me making a choice. Is either I take a dropout from school and go basically do a trade, construction or something of the sort, or I just become an academia and push my studies, become professional. And well, I tried the trade, it wasn't working out.
No way.
No, I wasn't cut out for that. So I just said, hey, listen, I just need to be serious about what I'm about and get it done. And that's really what triggered that change from that laid back person to well focused.
So I heard you mention that you had a tragic moment, and in certain folks who deal with human development and psychology and so on, they actually describe it as a quantum moment. Like it's this big event, this thing that happened, a major event in your life that, as you said, you decided, whoa, I could choose to stay where I'm at and go down this road, or I could choose a totally different path, right? And so tell me a little bit about that quantum moment. You don't have to go into any great details, but sort of when that happened, because what happened is it's a shift. You shifted the way you were thinking and behaving, into a new and a different way that netted you now for us to be having this conversation. So what was that moment? What was that quantum moment?
It was that my father had passed away, and he was the sole breadwinner for the family, and it resulted in as being the smallest in the family, responsibilities, because you now have a family that really and truly doesn't have a breadwinner, and everyone needed to stitch in. So there was no space for loafers.
Just had to make that shift.
You just had to make that shift and accept responsibility when given to you, and that is what triggered that change.
And was there anything happening? Like, how many other siblings?
So I have one older sister and one older brother.
All right, and you're the youngest.
Yeah, I'm the youngest.
Okay, so when you saw what happened, and that is a major shift. It's a major event in anyone's life, right? So is that something you came to on your own, or was there, maybe your mother, your sister, your brother, anyone that was saying, "Hey, Chetram, it's time to"?
So I was pretty much young at that age. I was 13 when that happened, and it's not really that they came out and said, "Hey, listen, this is what you need to do," but it comes from your understanding and your level of maturity, that you understand what the situation is and you do what you can help, and you accept that responsibility and just contribute.
That is so powerful, because even in their 20s, some folks 30s, they will have gone through a similar event, but not process it in that way, and that's a serious level of maturity, right? Coming out at 13. So there's something there, I guess, that was kind of dormant, like.
I guess, but that is the point, the pivotal point where life had to change. Well, I decided it had to change because I don't see it as value added anymore, because the realization stepped in. This was the reality, and you had to make do with what you have, and that's when I decided I need to be more serious about the way I'm going to do developing.
No, that is powerful, and that was only 11 years ago.
Yes. Yes, it was.
And that was like a 180, right? That you made. And how do you see yourself now? Like, how would you classify yourself in terms of your degree of commitment?
Well, I'm a person of structure. I try to maintain some level of structure in what I do. Very committed person. Ever since I was 14, I sleep about 5 hours a day.